The night my wife left me bleeding in an alley was the night I stumbled into the car of the most powerful woman in the city. And somehow, that mistake saved my life. I never believed in fate until the moment Catherine Romano's midnight blue Mercedes pulled up beside me while I was dying. Rain hammered the pavement like nature's own percussion, washing my blood down storm drains while I pressed trembling hands against the knife wound in my side. My phone was smashed, my wallet stolen, and my wife, my beautiful, ambitious wife, had just driven away after watching her lover's friends teach me a lesson about knowing my place. Some guardian angel you'd make, I remember thinking as consciousness started to slip. But then that car door opened, and a voice like silk over steel said, "Get in." Now. I should have been terrified. The woman behind the wheel radiated danger the way other people radiate warmth. But when you're bleeding out in a rainstorm with nowhere to go and no one who cares if you live or die, you stop questioning miracles. What I didn't know then was that Catherine Romano didn't do miracles. She made calculated investments. And somehow, I'd just become her most interesting acquisition. My name is Michael Chen, and 48 hours before I met Catherine Romano, I thought I understood my life. I was 29 years old, a freelance graphic designer with moderate success and a marriage I'd been pretending wasn't falling apart for the past year. My wife, Amanda, worked in corporate law at one of the city's most prestigious firms. She made 3 times what I earned, reminded me of it constantly, and had recently started working late, with increasing frequency. I told myself it was fine. That modern marriages looked different. That her ambition was attractive, not threatening. That the way she looked at me, with barely concealed disappointment, was just stress from her demanding career. The truth revealed itself on a Tuesday night in November. I'd surprised Amanda at her office with Thai food from her favorite restaurant, thinking maybe we could reconnect over padso and spring rolls like we used to when we were dating. The receptionist had already left for the day, so I used the key card Amanda had given me months ago, back when she still pretended to want me around. The conference room on the 14th floor had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Through the glass walls, I could see Amanda with perfect clarity. She wasn't alone. Marcus Blackwood, senior partner, married father of 3, man who'd given a toast at our wedding about young love, had his hands tangled in my wife's hair while she sat on the edge of the conference table, legs wrapped around his waist. I stood frozen, Thai food growing cold in my hands, watching my marriage die in real time. Amanda saw me first. For just a moment, I saw something that might have been regret flash across her face. Then it hardened into something else. Annoyance. Like I'd interrupted something important rather than destroyed what remained of my world. "Michael." She pushed Marcus back and straightened her skirt with the same efficient movements she used for everything. "This isn't what you think. It looks like you're sleeping with your boss." My voice sounded hollow, distant. In the conference room where we had our engagement party, Marcus had the decency to look uncomfortable. He was buttoning his shirt, not meeting my eyes. "Perhaps we should all take a moment to—" "Michael, grow up." Amanda's words cut like surgical instruments, precise, efficient, designed to inflict maximum damage. "You've known for months. You just refused to acknowledge it." She was right. I had known, in the way you know things you're too afraid to confront. The late nights. The way she flinched when I touched her. How she'd stopped wearing her wedding ring because it got caught on things at work. "How long?" I asked. "Does it matter?" "Yes." Amanda sighed like I was being tedious. 8 months. Since the merger celebration. 8 months. I'd spent 8 months cooking dinners she barely touched, planning date nights she canceled, trying to resurrect something that was already dead. "I want a divorce," she said simply. "Marcus and I are serious. He's leaving Patricia. We're going to build something real together." The cruelty of that last sentence, implying that what we had wasn't real, should have broken me. Instead, I felt something stranger. Relief. Because at least now I could stop pretending. "Fine," I said, setting the Thai food on the nearest chair. "You can have the apartment. I'll be out by the weekend." I turned to leave, and that's when Amanda's mask cracked just enough for me to see the calculation underneath. "Michael, wait. We should discuss this rationally. There's no need for lawyers or—" Or what? Or you having to explain to the firm that you're sleeping with a married partner. Or Marcus having to split his assets with Patricia in a messy divorce. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. Don't worry, Amanda. I'm not interested in revenge. I just want out. Marcus stepped forward, his expression shifting from uncomfortable to threatening. Perhaps you should consider your position carefully, Michael. Amanda's firm has connections. Resources. Making this difficult could be unwise. Is that a threat? It's friendly advice. But the steel in his voice suggested it was anything but friendly. I should have walked away then. Should have gone home, called a lawyer, started the divorce proceedings quietly. But 8 months of gaslighting and humiliation had built up a pressure I didn't know how to release. So instead, I did something stupid. Go to hell, I said. Both of you. Marcus's face darkened. You'll regret that. I didn't realize how much until 2 days later. I spent those 2 days moving my belongings out of the apartment Amanda and I had shared for 3 years. Everything I owned fit into 7 boxes and 2 suitcases, a depressing testament to how much of myself I'd lost trying to be the husband she wanted. My best friend Jake let me crash on his couch while I figured out next steps. He worked in restaurant management, pulling long hours that meant I had plenty of solitude to process the implosion of my marriage. On Thursday evening, I went back to the apartment one final time to collect my mail and the last few items I'd forgotten. I texted Amanda to make sure she wouldn't be there. She'd responded with a curt, fine, and nothing else. The apartment looked the same but felt emptier. Amanda had already removed the wedding photos from the walls, leaving rectangular shadows where our smiling faces used to be. I gathered my remaining things quickly, wanting to escape the ghost of who I'd been in this space. I was locking the door when I heard footsteps in the hallway behind me. Michael Chen. I turned to find 3 men in expensive suits approaching. They didn't look like residents of the building. They looked like the kind of people who got paid to intimidate. Who's asking? Friends of Marcus Blackwood. The lead man, tall, blonde, with the build of someone who spent serious time in the gym, smiled without warmth. He wanted us to deliver a message about being respectful during your divorce proceedings. My stomach dropped. I haven't even filed yet. Exactly. Marcus wants to make sure you don't. That you walk away quietly and don't cause problems for him or your wife. And if I don't? The smile widened. Then we deliver a different kind of message. They moved as a unit, backing me toward the stairwell. I looked around for help, but the hallway was empty. Most residents were still at work or hadn't come home yet. This is crazy, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You can't just. The first punch caught me in the stomach, doubling me over. The second hit my jaw, snapping my head back. Then I was falling, tumbling down the concrete stairs as they followed, delivering kicks and punches with professional efficiency. Stay quiet, the blonde man said as I lay gasping at the bottom of the stairwell. File for divorce quietly. Take whatever settlement Amanda offers. Don't ask questions, don't make demands, and definitely don't threaten Marcus's career. Understand? I tried to speak, but blood filled my mouth. We'll take that as a yes. He pulled out a knife. Just to emphasize the point, his expression said, and sliced a shallow cut across my ribs. Nothing fatal, just painful enough to scar. Remember this feeling if you're tempted to be difficult. Then they were gone, disappearing up the stairs like they'd never been there at all. I lay on the cold concrete, trying to remember how to breathe. Everything hurt. My ribs, my face, the knife wound that was bleeding more heavily than I'd expected. I managed to pull out my phone with shaking hands, but one of them had stepped on it during the beating. The screen was spiderwebbed and unresponsive. Move, some survival instinct whispered. Get help. Don't just lie here. I crawled up the stairs, using the railing to pull myself upright. The building's back exit led to an alley behind the complex. If I could make it to the street, maybe someone would help me. Maybe I could find a store, a hospital, anyone. The alley was dark and rain-soaked, trash dumpsters creating shadows where anything could hide. I stumbled forward, pressing one hand against the knife wound, leaving bloody handprints on the brick wall as I used it for support. That's when I heard the car engine. At first, I thought they'd come back to finish the job. Terror gave me a burst of energy that carried me another 10 feet before I collapsed against a dumpster, gasping. But the car that pulled up wasn't driven by Marcus's thugs. It was a midnight blue Mercedes, sleek and expensive, with tinted windows that reflected the neon lights from the street beyond. The driver's side window rolled down, revealing a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a film noir, all sharp cheekbones, intelligent dark eyes, and an expression that suggested she'd seen everything and been impressed by none of it. "You're bleeding on my territory," she said, her voice carrying the faint accent of someone who'd learned English somewhere overseas. "Italian, maybe." "That's remarkably inconsiderate." I stared at her, pretty sure I was hallucinating. "Sorry." "Get in the car." "I need hospital." "You need to get off the street before whoever did this decides to come back and finish the job." She leaned across and pushed open the passenger door. "I won't ask again." Later, I'd wonder why I trusted her. Maybe it was blood loss affecting my judgment. Maybe it was the absolute certainty in her voice. Or maybe it was just that after being betrayed by everyone I trusted, a dangerous stranger felt paradoxically safer than the familiar. I half fell into the passenger seat, bleeding all over her leather interior. The woman, Catherine, though I didn't know her name yet, didn't seem bothered. She pulled back into traffic with the smooth confidence of someone who'd learned to drive on Formula One circuits. "Who did this?" she asked, eyes fixed on the road. "The friends. The words came out garbled, pain making it hard to think. "They wanted me to stay quiet during the divorce." "Clumsy." Her tone suggested professional disappointment. When you want someone to stay quiet, you use financial leverage or legal threats. Violence just creates unpredictable variables. "Are you giving them pointers?" "I'm observing that your wife chose a remarkably stupid ally." Catherine took a turn that pressed me against the door, making me gasp. "Sorry. We need to move quickly. You're losing blood faster than I'd like." "Hospital." "No hospitals." Too many questions, and if these men work for someone with resources, they'll have people watching emergency rooms. She glanced at me, dark eyes assessing. "I have a doctor on call. He'll patch you up, no questions asked." "Why are you helping me?" Catherine was quiet for a long moment, navigating through traffic with aggressive skill. When she spoke again, her voice had softened almost imperceptibly. "Let's just say I have strong feelings about people who abuse power to hurt those who can't fight back." I wanted to ask more, but consciousness was starting to slip. The last thing I remember before darkness took me was Catherine's hand on my shoulder, surprisingly gentle, and her voice saying, "Stay with me, Michael Chen. I haven't decided if you're interesting enough to save yet." I woke up in a bedroom that belonged in an architectural magazine. High ceilings, minimalist furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city from what must have been at least the 40th floor. The bed beneath me had sheets that probably cost more than my monthly rent. My side was bandaged professionally, the pain reduced to a manageable throb. Someone had cleaned the blood from my face and dressed me in expensive cotton pajamas that definitely weren't mine. "You're awake." Catherine Romano stood in the doorway, dressed in tailored black pants and a white silk blouse that probably cost what I earned in a month. In better light, I could see she was stunning in a way that felt almost weaponized, beauty designed to distract and disarm. Late 30s, maybe, with the kind of confidence that came from knowing exactly how powerful she was. "Where am I?" "My penthouse." She moved into the room with fluid grace, carrying a bottle of water and what looked like prescription medication. "Dr. Ramos patched you up? 13 stitches for the knife wound, treatment for the bruising. You'll be sore for a while, but nothing permanent." I accepted the water gratefully, though my hands still shook. "Thank you. I don't know how to repay. We'll discuss compensation later." Catherine sat in the chair beside the bed, crossing her legs and studying me with an intensity that made me deeply uncomfortable. "First, I need information. Your full name." "Michael Chen." "And your wife?" "Amanda Chen. Born Amanda Porter. She's a lawyer at Carrington and Associates." Something flickered in Catherine's expression. Recognition, maybe, or interest. "And her lover?" Marcus Blackwood, senior partner at the same firm. Ah. Catherine's smile was sharp enough to cut. Marcus. Yes, I know him. Or rather, I know of him. He handles certain, delicate, legal matters for people I find distasteful. What kind of people? The kind who hire thugs to beat up inconvenient husbands. She stood, moving to the window. Michael, I'm going to be direct with you. The men who attacked you don't work for Marcus. They work for someone much more dangerous, and Marcus is simply connected enough to make a phone call. My blood ran cold. Who? Victor Constantine. He runs illegal gambling operations, loan sharking, and various protection rackets throughout the city. Catherine turned back to face me, backlit by the city lights. Marcus provides legal services to Victor's legitimate businesses. In exchange, Victor provides favors when Marcus needs problems eliminated. I'm not a problem. I just wanted a divorce. But you're a risk. Marcus is being considered for a federal judgeship. Any hint of impropriety could derail that. So when you threaten to make things difficult, Catherine shrugged elegantly. He called in a favor. The implications crashed over me like cold water. They're going to kill me. Eventually this. If you continue to be a complication. She returned to her chair. Which brings us to why you're here. I thought you said you hate bullies. I do. I also hate Victor Constantine. Catherine's expression went cold, dangerous. He's expanding into territory that belongs to me. My businesses, my people, my city. I've been looking for leverage against him for months. And I'm leverage? You're an opportunity. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees. Marcus is Victor's legal shield. Without Marcus, Victor becomes vulnerable. But I need proof of their connection, documentation, recordings, something concrete that can't be dismissed. And you think I can get it? I think you're highly motivated to stay alive, and you have access to the one person who might have that information. Catherine's smile was predatory. Your wife. I shook my head, immediately regretting the movement as pain flared. Amanda would never help me. She wants this to go away quietly. She wants a clean divorce so she can marry Marcus. But what if you could offer her something more valuable than silence? What if you could give her freedom from a very dangerous man? I don't understand. Catherine pulled out a tablet and brought up a news article. The headline read, Prominent attorney's wife found dead in apparent suicide. Patricia Blackwood, Catherine said softly. Marcus's wife. She died 6 months ago. The official story is depression and pills. But I have reason to believe Victor was involved. My stomach churned. You think Marcus had his wife killed? I think Marcus wanted to be free to marry Amanda, and Victor provided a solution. But if that's true, it means Amanda is in danger too. Catherine set the tablet aside. Think about it. Once Marcus gets his judgeship, Amanda becomes a liability. She knows too much about his connection to Victor. And Victor doesn't leave loose ends. So you're saying... I'm saying your wife is going to end up like Patricia Blackwood unless someone stops it. And the only way to stop it is to destroy the connection between Marcus and Victor. Catherine's eyes locked onto mine. I can protect you, Michael. I have resources, security, people who are very good at keeping threats at bay. But in exchange, I need you to help me get the evidence we need. It was insane. All of it. I was a graphic designer whose biggest concern 3 days ago had been meeting client deadlines. Now I was being asked to help bring down a crime boss and a corrupt lawyer. But when I closed my eyes, I saw Amanda in that conference room. Saw the way she'd looked at me, not with love or even guilt, but with contempt. Saw Marcus's threat in his eyes. If I do this, I said slowly, what happens to Amanda? If she cooperates? I make sure Victor never touches her. I have colleagues in law enforcement who would be very interested in information about his operations. Catherine's expression softened almost imperceptibly. She gets to live, Michael. That's more than Victor usually offers. And if she doesn't cooperate? Then she faces the consequences of the choices she's made. The steel returned to Catherine's voice. I won't force you to save someone who helped put you in danger. But I will ask you to try. I thought about 3 years of marriage. About the woman I'd loved who'd slowly transformed into someone I didn't recognize. About the fact that despite everything, I still couldn't quite shake the idea that she deserved a chance at survival. What do you need me to do? Catherine's smile was triumphant. First, you recover. Then we plan. And Michael? She stood, moving toward the door. Welcome to a world where power matters more than love. Try not to get yourself killed while you're learning the rules. Recovery took 3 days. Catherine's doctor, a quiet man named Ramos who asked no questions and offered no judgments, changed my bandages daily and provided pain medication that dulled the worst of the ache. Catherine herself was often absent during daylight hours, returning in the evenings with the energy of someone who'd spent the day conquering small nations. On the 3rd evening, she found me on the balcony, staring at the city lights and trying to process my new reality. "How's the pain?" she asked, joining me at the railing. "Manageable. Better than it was." "Good. Because we have work to do." She handed me a folder. I had my people dig into Amanda's life. What we found is interesting. I opened the folder to find surveillance photos, financial records, and what looked like private emails. "How did you get all this?" "I have excellent hackers." Catherine said it like she was discussing hiring a gardener. "Amanda has been very careful, but not careful enough. She's been transferring money to an offshore account for the past year. Small amounts, nothing that would trigger attention. But it adds up to nearly $200,000. I felt sick. She was planning to leave me. She was planning to leave with Marcus once his divorce was final. But that's not the interesting part. Catherine pulled out another document. 3 weeks ago, Amanda accessed Marcus's home computer. She downloaded files, lots of them, onto an encrypted drive. What kind of files? We don't know yet. But given the timing, Catherine's expression was grim. "I think Amanda suspects what happened to Patricia. And I think she's gathering insurance." The implication hit me like a truck. She's protecting herself. Smart woman. Ruthless, but smart. Catherine pulled up more photos on her phone. She's meeting Marcus tonight at a restaurant downtown. Bellinate, 8 p.m. I think it's time you had a conversation with your wife. She won't talk to me. Not willingly. Then we make her willing. Catherine's smile was dangerous. "How do you feel about a little performance?" The plan was simple, which Catherine assured me meant it was more likely to succeed. I would approach Amanda at the restaurant, make a scene, force her to listen. Catherine's people would be nearby, making sure Marcus's thugs didn't interfere. And if Amanda refused to help, then we moved to Plan B, Catherine said, though she didn't specify what Plan B entailed. At 7:45 p.m., I stood outside Bellina wearing clothes Catherine had provided, expensive but not flashy, designed to help me blend with the restaurant's upscale clientele. My ribs still ached, but the pain felt distant, manageable. What I couldn't manage was the anxiety twisting my stomach into knots. "You'll be fine," Catherine said through the earpiece she'd insisted I wear. "Just remember, you're not asking for her help. You're offering her survival." I entered the restaurant, immediately spotting Amanda and Marcus at a corner table. They looked perfect together, both dressed in designer clothes, both radiating confidence and success. The kind of power couple that made other diners envious. Amanda saw me before I reached their table. Her eyes widened, then narrowed with anger. "Michael, what the hell are you doing here?" Marcus half stood, his expression darkening. "I thought we made ourselves clear." "Sit down, Marcus." I kept my voice level, refusing to show fear. "I'm not here to cause problems. I'm here to save Amanda's life." "What?" Amanda's anger shifted to confusion. "Patricia Blackwood." I looked directly at Marcus, watching his face carefully. "She didn't kill herself, did she?" The restaurant's ambient noise seemed to fade. Marcus had gone completely still, his expression shifting from anger to something much more dangerous. "You need to leave," he said quietly. "Right now." "Amanda, listen to me." I ignored Marcus, focusing on my wife, my soon-to-be ex-wife. Patricia found out about Marcus's connection to Victor Constantine. She was going to expose him. So Victor made her disappear and called it suicide. That's insane, Amanda said, but her voice lacked conviction. Is it? You've been downloading files from Marcus's computer. Files that probably prove his connection to Victor. Files that could send him to prison and destroy Victor's legal protection. I leaned forward. You know I'm right. That's why you've been gathering evidence. Amanda's face had gone pale. How did you? It doesn't matter how I know. What matters is that Victor finds out you're next. You think you're Marcus's future, but you're really just a liability waiting to be eliminated. Get out, Marcus snarled, standing fully now. Before I call security. Call them. Call the police while you're at it. I'm sure they'd love to hear about your connections to Victor Constantine. You don't know what you're talking about. I know you had Patricia killed. I know Victor's thugs beat me half to death to keep me quiet. And I know that Amanda is smart enough to see the pattern. I turned back to my wife, who looked genuinely frightened now. You can walk away from this, Amanda. But you need to do it now before it's too late. This is ridiculous, Marcus said, but he'd lost some of his certainty. Amanda, we're leaving. No. Amanda's voice was quiet but firm. I want to hear what Michael has to say. Amanda. Sit down, Marcus. The power shift was subtle but unmistakable. For the first time, I saw real fear in Marcus's eyes. I have someone who can protect you, I said to Amanda. Someone powerful enough to keep Victor away from you. But you need to give us the files you downloaded. We need proof of Marcus's connection to Victor. And if I refuse? Then you try to survive on your own, and we both know how that's going to end. I stood up. You have until tomorrow night to decide. After that, you're on your own. I walked out of the restaurant, heart pounding, half expecting Marcus's thugs to grab me in the parking lot. But Catherine's people were there, subtle, professional, making sure I made it safely back to the waiting car. Well done, Catherine said as I slid into the passenger seat. You were very convincing. I meant every word. She looked at me with something that might have been respect. I know. That's what made it convincing. Amanda called the next morning. Catherine put her on speakerphone, her expression unreadable. Michael, I need to see you. Alone. That's not going to happen, I said, acutely aware of Catherine's presence beside me. Anywhere we meet, you'll have protection. From whom? Your mysterious benefactor? Amanda's voice carried an edge of hysteria. Marcus had a team follow you last night. He knows about Catherine Romano. Catherine's expression didn't change, but I saw her fingers tighten on the armrest. Then he knows I'm not someone to underestimate, Catherine said calmly. Jesus Christ, Michael. Amanda's voice cracked. Do you have any idea who you're involved with? Catherine Romano runs half the illegal gambling operations in this city. She's worse than Victor Constantine. Actually, my operations are entirely legal, Catherine said pleasantly. I simply have better lawyers than Victor. Amanda, I interrupted before this could escalate further. Do you have the files or not? A long silence. Then, I have them. But I need guarantees. You'll have protection from Victor. Isn't that guarantee enough? I need more than that. I need immunity. I need... Another pause. I need a way out of all of this. The marriage, the firm, Marcus, everything. I looked at Catherine, who was already typing on her phone. After a moment, she nodded. Done, Catherine said. I have contacts in the FBI who would be very interested in your files. Full immunity in exchange for testimony against both Marcus and Victor. You'll need to disappear for a while, but for how long? Until the trials are over. Possibly a year, maybe 2. And Michael? Amanda's voice was small. What happens to him? I expected Catherine to say I'd be fine, that I'd go back to my normal life once this was over. Instead, she looked at me with an intensity that made my breath catch. Michael stays with me, she said softly. He's earned that much. The way she said it, possessive, protective, with an undercurrent of something I didn't want to examine too closely, made my pulse quicken. Amanda, I said, send the files to the email address Catherine gives you. Tonight. Don't tell Marcus, don't tell anyone at the firm. Just send them and wait for instructions. Okay. She sounded defeated, exhausted. Michael? I'm sorry. For all of it. You deserved better than what I gave you. The apology came too late and cost too little, but I accepted it anyway. I know. Goodbye, Amanda. After the call ended, Catherine and I sat in silence. She was still looking at me with that unreadable expression. You could have let her suffer, she said finally. Most men would have. I'm not most men. No. Her hand covered mine, warm and surprisingly gentle. You're really not. The files Amanda sent were devastating. Years of communication between Marcus and Victor, detailing illegal activities, bribes, and, horrifyingly, a recorded conversation about handling the Patricia problem. Catherine's FBI contacts moved quickly, assembling a case that would bring down not just Marcus and Victor, but a network of corrupt officials and criminals throughout the city. Amanda disappeared into witness protection 3 days later. I never saw her again. What I did see, with increasing frequency, was Catherine. You don't have to stay, she told me one evening as we shared wine on her balcony. The threat is over. Victor has been arrested, Marcus is facing murder charges, and you're safe to resume your life. What life? I asked. My marriage is over, I'm probably going to lose clients once word gets out about the divorce, and I'm living in a penthouse that belongs to someone who terrifies me. I terrify you? Absolutely. Catherine smiled. But you should be terrified. I'm not a good person, Michael. I've done things that would horrify you. Like what? Like controlling illegal gambling operations, as your wife mentioned. Like using violence when necessary to protect my interests. Like manipulating people's lives to serve my own ends. She turned to face me. I saved you because I needed leverage against Victor. Don't romanticize what happened. What if I did? The words came out before I could stop them. Romanticize it, I mean. What if I thought there was something real here, beyond the manipulation and strategy? Catherine went very still. That would be very foolish. Probably. But I've been playing it safe my whole life, and it left me bleeding in an alley. I moved closer. Maybe it's time I took a risk on something dangerous. I could hurt you worse than Amanda ever did. You could. But you won't. How do you know? Because you stayed by my bedside the first night, when you thought I was asleep. Because you held my hand while Dr. Ramos stitched me up. Because you look at me like I matter, not like I'm a disappointment. I reached out, touching her face. Because under all that danger and control, you're just as lonely as I am. Catherine caught my hand, holding it against her cheek. For a long moment, we just looked at each other. This is a terrible idea, she whispered. I know. You should run. Now while you still can. I know. Michael. I kissed her, cutting off whatever warning she was about to give. She froze for a heartbeat, then kissed me back with an intensity that stole my breath. Her hands tangled in my hair, pulling me closer, and I felt something inside me unlock, something I hadn't realized had been closed since long before Amanda's betrayal. When we finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Catherine's carefully controlled mask had cracked completely. Stay, she said. Not because you owe me, not because you're afraid, but because you want to. I do want to. It won't be easy. My life is complicated, dangerous, full of threats you don't understand yet. Then teach me. I pulled her against me, feeling her heartbeat against my chest. Show me your world, Catherine. Let me be part of it. She looked up at me, dark eyes shining with emotions she usually kept hidden. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Catherine's smile was radiant, transforming her from dangerous to devastating. Then welcome home, Michael Chen. Let's see if you survive loving me. The gallery opening was everything I'd dreamed of but never thought I'd achieve. My artwork, bold digital pieces that merged Asian aesthetics with modern graphic design, covered the walls of Catherine's newly opened cultural center. Critics had praised my unique vision and fearless execution. Several pieces had already sold for prices that made my old freelance rates look like pocket change. But what mattered most was the woman beside me, elegant in a midnight blue dress, one hand resting possessively on my arm as we greeted guests. "You did it," Catherine murmured as another art dealer approached to discuss commission work. "I'm so proud of you. Couldn't have done it without your funding. My money bought the venue. Your talent filled it." She squeezed my arm. "Don't diminish that." Later, after the crowds had cleared and we stood alone in the gallery, Catherine pulled me close. "I have something for you," she said, reaching into her clutch. The ring she pulled out was simple, a brushed platinum band with a single black diamond. Masculine and understated, perfect for me. "Catherine, I know marriage didn't work out well for you the first time," she said quickly. "And I know my life is complicated and dangerous and definitely not what you signed up for. But these past 2 years..." She took a shaky breath, and I realized she was nervous. "You've made me believe in things I thought I'd lost forever. Trust, partnership, love. Catherine Romano, are you proposing? I'm offering you a choice. We can keep going as we are, or..." She looked up at me, vulnerability written clearly on her face. "Or you can choose forever. Choose this. Choose us." I took the ring from her, turning it in the light. The black diamond caught and held the glow from the gallery lights. "You know what I realized tonight?" I asked. "When I was married to Amanda, I spent every day trying to be smaller, quieter, less demanding. Trying to fit into the life she wanted instead of building the life I needed. And now I'm with someone who pushes me to be bigger, braver, more ambitious." I slipped the ring onto my finger. Someone who sees my potential and challenges me to reach it. Someone who terrifies me and makes me feel safer than I've ever felt. Catherine's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Is that a yes?" "That's a hell yes." I pulled her close, kissing her with all the love and certainty I felt. "I choose forever, Catherine. I choose you. Every single day for the rest of my life." She laughed against my lips, a sound of pure joy. "You know this means you're really part of my world now. No more standing on the sidelines. But I'm tired of watching from safety. It's time I learned to be dangerous too." "Oh, Michael." Catherine's smile was wicked and warm. "You've been dangerous since the moment I found you bleeding in that alley. You just didn't know it yet." Marriage to Catherine Romano wasn't what anyone would call conventional. There was no big wedding. She'd been married before, disastrously, and had no interest in repeating that particular performance. Instead, we flew to Italy with her closest associates and were married in a small ceremony overlooking the Mediterranean. "This is where my grandparents were married," she told me as we stood on the terrace of an ancient villa. "Before they came to America and built everything from nothing. I wanted you to see where it all began." The ceremony was conducted in Italian, which I didn't speak, but Catherine translated the important parts. When the officiant asked if I would honor, protect, and stand beside this woman through all challenges, I answered in English, "Always." When he asked if Catherine would do the same, she responded in Italian, then translated for me, "With everything I have and everything I am." We honeymooned in Rome, Venice, and Florence, cities Catherine knew intimately, showing me hidden restaurants and secret gardens that tourists never found. She was different here, more relaxed, laughing more freely. I realized that in Italy, she could simply be Catherine, not Catherine Romano, the powerful woman who controlled so much of our city's underground economy. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked one evening as we watched the sunset from our hotel balcony in Florence. "The life you lead. The choices you've made." Catherine was quiet for a long moment, swirling wine in her glass. "I regret some of the things I've done. People I've hurt. Lines I've crossed that can't be uncrossed." She looked at me. "But I don't regret becoming powerful. After my parents were killed, after I watched my family's empire nearly collapse, I swore I'd never be vulnerable again." "You're not vulnerable with me. Aren't I?" Her smile was sad. "Michael, loving you is the most dangerous thing I've ever done. It gives people leverage against me. It creates weakness where I can't afford weakness." "Then why do it?" "Because you make me remember why I built all of this in the first place. Power for power's sake is empty. But power that protects the people you love? That's worth everything." She set down her wine glass and took my hands. My parents taught me that family is the only thing that truly matters. Everything else, money, influence, respect, it's all in service of protecting family. I'm your family now. Yes. And I will burn down anyone who threatens you. The intensity in her voice should have frightened me. Instead, it made me feel cherished in a way I'd never experienced. Amanda had loved me conditionally, when it was convenient, when I fit the image she wanted. Catherine loved me fiercely, protectively, with a devotion that bordered on obsessive. And I loved her the same way. We returned to find the city in the midst of change. Victor Constantine's arrest had created a power vacuum, and several ambitious criminals were vying to fill it. Catherine handled the situation with strategic precision, forming alliances with some factions while systematically destroying others. I watched her work with a mixture of awe and concern. She was brilliant at chess played with human pieces, always thinking 3 moves ahead, anticipating her opponent's strategies before they fully formed them. "You're worried," she said one evening, finding me in the study of our penthouse. "I'm watching you fight a war. It's not a war. It's business." But her expression softened when she saw my face. "Michael, this is what I do. What I've always done." "I know. And I'm not asking you to stop. I'm asking you to let me help." Catherine sat beside me, taking my hand. "You already help. You keep me human. You remind me why I'm doing this. I want to do more than that. Teach me. Show me how your world works. Let me be your partner in all of this, not just the man waiting at home." She studied my face carefully. "Are you sure? Once you cross certain lines, you can't uncross them. You said that about marrying you too." I crossed that line without hesitation. A slow smile spread across Catherine's face. "All right, but we start small. I have a meeting tomorrow with some business associates. You'll come with me, observe, learn how negotiations work in my world." The meeting was in a private room at an upscale restaurant, neutral territory, Catherine explained, where both sides could feel safe. The business associates were 2 brothers who controlled shipping operations at the port. "They've been skimming from their own imports," Catherine told me beforehand, "taking a larger cut than agreed upon. I need them to understand that stops now." I expected threats, maybe violence. Instead, Catherine was almost pleasant as she laid out the evidence of their theft. She showed them financial records, shipping manifests, and surveillance photos, all gathered by her people over months of careful observation. "Gentlemen," she said calmly, "you've taken approximately $3 million from operations that are supposed to benefit all of us equally. That creates instability. And instability is bad for business." The older brother, a man named Marco, tried to bluster. "We don't know what you're talking about. Please don't insult my intelligence." Catherine's voice could have cut glass. "We both know exactly what you've done. The question is how we resolve it." "And if we don't want to resolve it your way?" the younger brother, Luca, asked. Catherine smiled. "Then I notify our other partners of your theft. I provide them with all the evidence I've gathered, and I let them decide how to handle their lost revenue." She paused. "Or you return the money, accept a reduced share going forward, and we continue our profitable relationship." "That's extortion," Marco snapped. "No, that's business. Extortion would be if I threatened your families, your legitimate operations, your freedom. I'm simply offering you a choice: cooperation or consequences." The brothers exchanged glances. Finally, Luca nodded. "We'll return the money and accept the reduced share." "Excellent." Catherine stood, smoothing her skirt. "I'm glad we could resolve this reasonably. Michael, shall we?" As we left the restaurant, I realized I'd been holding my breath for most of the meeting. That was... I searched for words. Terrifying and impressive in equal measure. That's how most negotiations work in my world. Make it clear that cooperation benefits everyone, but defiance costs more than anyone wants to pay. She took my arm as we walked to the car. "Did you learn anything? That you're much scarier than you look." Catherine laughed. "But reputation is half the battle. If people fear you enough, you rarely have to actually hurt anyone." Over the following months, I attended more meetings, learned more about Catherine's operations, and began to understand the complex web of relationships and rivalries that governed her world. I also discovered I had a talent for mediation. My background in design meant I was good at seeing patterns and finding creative solutions to problems. "You're wasted as just my husband," Catherine said one evening after I'd helped negotiate a particularly tricky alliance between two rival factions. "You should be running operations." I thought I was just observing. But you've proven you can do more than observe. You understand people, Michael. You see what motivates them and how to give them what they need while still getting what I want. She pulled me close. "You're becoming quite dangerous, Mr. Chen." "I learned from the best, Mrs. Romano." She kept her name professionally but added Chen legally, a compromise that made us both happy. In her world, she was Catherine Romano, feared and respected. At home, she was Catherine Chen, the woman who made me breakfast on lazy Sundays and fell asleep reading contracts in bed. The first warning came in the form of a photograph. Someone had slipped it under our door, a picture of me leaving the gallery where my art was displayed. Someone had been watching, following, documenting my movements. Catherine's response was immediate and overwhelming. Security doubled around our penthouse, our movements were restricted, and she assigned two of her best people, Marcus and Sophia, to be with me whenever she couldn't be. "This is excessive," I protested. "It's just one photo. It's a message." Catherine's expression was grim. "Someone wants me to know they can reach you. That you're vulnerable." "Who?" "I have suspicions. But I need confirmation before I act." She pulled me close, her embrace almost desperate. "Michael, I need you to trust me. Stay close to Marcus and Sophia. Don't go anywhere without them." "Can you do that?" "Of course." "But Catherine, what aren't you telling me?" She was quiet for a long moment. Victor Constantine's brother, Alexei, was released from prison 3 weeks ago. He's been very quiet since his release. Too quiet. My blood ran cold. "You think he's coming after us?" "I think he blames me for his brother's imprisonment and death." Victor had died in prison 6 months into his sentence, a knife fight that everyone knew was really an execution. "And I think he knows the best way to hurt me is through you. Then we go after him first." "Michael, you taught me how your world works, Catherine. You taught me that showing weakness invites attack. So we don't show weakness. We show strength." I pulled back to meet her eyes. "We end this threat before it grows." Catherine studied my face, something like pride flickering in her expression. "You've changed so much from the man I found bleeding in that alley. You made me stronger. Now let me help you stay safe." She nodded slowly. "All right, but we do this carefully. Alexei is dangerous, more violent and less strategic than his brother. We need proof he's targeting us before we move." The proof came 2 days later. I was at the gallery, meeting with a potential buyer, when Sophia stepped close and whispered, "We need to leave. Now." "What's wrong?" "Someone just placed a bomb in the gallery's basement. We have 5 minutes before it detonates." Terror and training, Catherine's training, kicked in simultaneously. I calmly excused myself from the buyer, walked to the gallery entrance with Sophia and Marcus flanking me, and got into the waiting car. We were 3 blocks away when the explosion shook the windows. I watched smoke rise from my gallery, my work, my achievement, everything I'd built, and felt something inside me harden into steel. "Take me to Catherine," I said quietly. She was in a meeting when we arrived, but one look at my face made her end it immediately. I told her what happened, my voice steady despite the rage burning through my veins. "Alexei just declared war," I said. "Now we finish it." Catherine nodded. "Agreed. But we're smart about this." "We?" "No." I interrupted her for the first time since we'd married. "No more strategy. No more careful planning. He tried to kill me, Catherine. He destroyed my work. This ends tonight." "Michael, you can't." "I can and I will. You taught me how to be dangerous. You showed me how power works in your world. Now I'm using those lessons." I turned to Marcus. "Where would Alexei be right now?" Marcus glanced at Catherine, who gave a small nod. He has a warehouse on the east side. Uses it as a base of operations. Then that's where we're going. What followed was the longest night of my life. Catherine mobilized her people, 24 loyal associates who'd been with her for years. We surrounded Alexei's warehouse, cutting off escape routes and communication. I insisted on going in with the first team. Catherine tried to stop me, but I was immovable. He came after me, I said. I finish it. We found Alexei in his office, surrounded by armed men who immediately reached for weapons when we burst through the door. But Catherine's people were faster, disarming them before shots could be fired. Alexei himself looked remarkably like his brother. Same cold eyes, same predatory smile. Catherine Romano, he said as if we'd met for tea. And her pet artist. This is unexpected. You tried to kill my husband, Catherine said coldly. That was a mistake. Was it? I thought I was sending a message. Let me try again. He moved with shocking speed, pulling a gun from his desk drawer. Everything happened in slow motion. Alexei raising the weapon toward Catherine. Marcus moving to intercept. And me, acting on pure instinct, throwing myself between them. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. I felt the impact, like being punched by a truck, and then I was falling, Catherine's scream following me down into darkness. I woke up in a hospital room to find Catherine asleep in the chair beside my bed, one hand clutching mine even in sleep. She looked exhausted, her usually perfect appearance disheveled, makeup streaked with dried tears. Catherine, I whispered. Her eyes flew open, and relief flooded her face so intensely it was almost painful to witness. Michael. Oh God, Michael. She moved to the bed, hands framing my face. You idiot. You beautiful, stupid, brave idiot. Did we get him? Alexei is dead. Marcus killed him after he shot you. The threat is over. Tears streamed down her face. But you were dead, Michael. For 2 minutes, you were gone and I'm here. I pulled her down beside me despite the pain in my chest. The bullet had missed my heart by inches, but the recovery would be long. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. You can't do that again. Ever. Do you understand? Her voice broke. I can't lose you. I won't survive losing you. Then I guess we're even. Because I won't survive losing you either. I kissed her forehead. That's what partnership means, right? We protect each other. Even when it's dangerous. Catherine laughed through her tears. You've learned too well. I've created a monster. No. You've created your equal. Someone who can stand beside you, not behind you. Someone who fights with you, not for you. She looked at me with such love it made my chest ache worse than the bullet wound. How did I get so lucky? You found me bleeding in an alley and decided I was worth saving. Best decision I ever made. She curled against me carefully, mindful of my injuries. Though next time, maybe leave the heroics to people wearing bulletproof vests. No promises. The Romano Chen Foundation celebrated its 3rd anniversary with a gala that brought together everyone who mattered in the city. Politicians, business leaders, community organizers, all united in supporting the foundation's mission to help domestic violence victims rebuild their lives. I stood at the podium, more comfortable with public speaking than I'd ever imagined possible, and addressed the crowd. 5 years ago, I was that person we're trying to help. I was trapped in a marriage that diminished me, hurt by people I should have been able to trust, left for dead by those who should have protected me. I found Catherine in the crowd, her dark eyes shining with pride. Someone saved me that night, gave me a chance to rebuild, to become stronger, to find real love. The crowd applauded as Catherine joined me on stage. We can't save everyone, I continued, but we can offer them the same thing I was offered: protection, resources, and the opportunity to become who they're meant to be. Thank you for supporting this mission. Later, after the crowds had cleared and we stood alone on the foundation's rooftop terrace, Catherine pulled me close. You know what I realized tonight? She asked. What? That saving you didn't just change your life. It changed mine. Before you, I was just accumulating power for power's sake. But you gave me purpose. You showed me that strength means protecting those who can't protect themselves. We protect each other, I corrected. That's what we've always done. Yes. She kissed me softly. And we always will. I looked out over the city, our city in many ways. Catherine had consolidated her power in the years since Alexei's death, becoming not just feared but respected. She'd transformed her criminal operations into legitimate businesses, using the foundation as a bridge between her past and future. And I'd grown alongside her. My art now sold internationally, but I'd also become her closest advisor, the person she trusted to see the bigger picture when she got too focused on immediate threats. Do you ever miss it? Catherine asked. Your old life. The simplicity of just being a graphic designer with no complications. Not even for a second. That Michael was small, scared, always apologizing for taking up space. I turned to face her. This Michael knows his worth. Knows he deserves love that lifts him up instead of tearing him down. Knows he's capable of building something meaningful. You've built something extraordinary. The foundation, your art career, this. She gestured between us. Us. We built it. Together. That's what makes it extraordinary. Catherine's smile was radiant. You know, when I first saw you bleeding in that alley, I thought you were just another victim. Someone I could use for my own ends. And now I know you were never a victim. You were a survivor waiting to find your strength. And I was privileged to witness your transformation. We stood together on that rooftop watching the city lights, and I thought about the journey that had brought us here. The pain and betrayal that had seemed like the end of everything had actually been the beginning. The moment I stopped accepting the love I thought I deserved and started fighting for the love I actually needed. Catherine. Yes, my love. Thank you for pulling over that night. For seeing something worth saving in a broken man bleeding in the rain. She took my face in her hands, her touch infinitely gentle. Michael, you were never broken. You were just bent. All you needed was someone strong enough to help you straighten back up. And you were strong enough. We were strong enough. Together. She kissed me, and I tasted the future in that kiss, bright and dangerous and absolutely worth fighting for. Always together. The rain started to fall, gentle drops that caught the city lights like diamonds. But this time, the rain didn't feel like punishment. It felt like cleansing, like renewal, like a baptism into the life we'd built from the ashes of who we used to be. I'd entered Catherine's car broken and bleeding, certain I was dying. Instead, I'd found the woman who would teach me how to truly live. And that made every danger, every threat, every moment of fear absolutely worth it. Because at the end of the day, we don't find salvation in safety. We find it in the people brave enough to love us at our worst and strong enough to stand beside us at our best. Catherine Romano had been my salvation. And I'd spent every day since trying to be hers.